Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversation Show at the Emerging Lawyer, powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and our tech partner Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is crafting strategies and governance. We have with us Ketan Mukhija, senior partner at Burgeon Law, whose extensive legal expertise spans corporate law, mergers and acquisitions, private equity, and governance. With a career that includes key leadership roles at Dentons Link Legal, P&A Law Offices, Srei, Ketan has contributed to some of the most complex legal transactions and corporate strategies in India. From shaping governance frameworks to managing high stakes negotiations, his journey offers invaluable insights into the intersection of law, business, leadership, and now, during my this pre conversation, uh, teaching. So, empowering legal fraternity students and team members with knowledge sharing. So, welcome, Ketan, to today's special episode.
Thank you so much, Amir, for having me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah. So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation, a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, where we help law firms, corporate legal, startups, and SMEs with world class technology solutions to improve their work life and become profitable. So, Ketan, you must be aware of the two rounds, but there is a surprise round that is a rapid fire round.
Wonderful.
So,
The
you have
name
to be
excites
witty,
me.
funny, quick,
Sure.
and you'll get to win this book.
Will try my best, Amir.
Yeah. So, friends, I'm an author of 15 books. So, this will be your Christmas gift. Uh, Ketan, that's why I said special episode because this is a year end special for all our coffee speakers who have lots to share and lot to say about 2025. So, let's begin. My first question was the professional journey round. What inspired you to specialize in diverse areas like corporate law, M&A, private equity, and project finance, Ketan?
Sure. So, Amir, I come from a business family wherein everybody used to read the Economic Times. I tried reading it, but I could not understand it, which is why, my interest, natural inclination actually developed towards this particular corporate world, the boardrooms, and, the entire world of multinationals. So, the growth trajectory, as you know, India is on a growth trajectory. And
Hmm.
I was once told by a gentleman, who I look up to, that the numbers speak more than the alphabets. So, which is why my natural inclination towards, getting to know the nuances and nitty-gritties of the corporate world became more intense. And slowly, as I proceeded with my legal journey and career, I realized that the legal acumen in isolation doesn't work. So you'll have to put a commercial hat on and then advise as a wholesome and comprehensive advice that becomes very, very value adding proposition to the clients. So hence my it's like an amalgamation of natural inclination and my capability which I developed over the years that actually interested me to specialize in diverse areas that you mentioned: M&A, private equity, and so on and so forth.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay. Uh, Now, let's come to this your law firm, the name, Burgeon Law of now. So, what is the meaning of Burgeon and what is the story behind this naming of a Burgeon? We like to know because I've come across various law firms who have from working in what's a big size law firm. They've started a practice, but they've started unique naming. So how did this trend come up?
Sure. So I didn't nomenclature this, but of course my partner Roma did. And here is the story behind it. So Burgeon means rapid growth and development. So at the stage when the firm was named, we were witnessing a lot of rapid developments in the field of private equity, venture capital, startups, entrepreneurs, family offices, investments, etc. That was the time when 2013 to 2015, when the firm's birth took place. And that was an apt name to actually, name this as Burgeon, because, this is, of course, an agnostic name, a democratic name. It's not named after a founder. It also sounds international in its scope and nature. And therefore, I think we wanted to actually capture the spirit of the organization in its name. And that basically meant rapid growth and rapid development through, of course, service offerings and talent pool both.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Now, Ketan, how do you navigate the challenges of advising startups versus established corporations?
Understood. So we actually deal with a lot of founders, and the founders, of course, have a different mindset because they want to raise money, and everything happens on a yesterday basis. So the timelines, the processes, etc., yeah, are always on a very hectic kind of an expedited spirit. So when you deal with the more mature company, which is basically in later stages of growth, you have an independent or professional management. You have set procedures, you have set processes, you have SOPs, standard operating protocols, etc. already set. So one difference would be that that the timelines and the processes which you see in founders versus the mature companies is very different. However, the how we navigate that, and that's the real question, the challenges of advising startups. We have to, as in the law school or in the legal fraternity, it's always taught to us that you have to read the room, you have to read the judge, etc. So similarly, you have to read the client and align your incentives with that of the clients. So if they need a turnaround within a certain timeline, we try to match timelines. If they need the document to be negotiated and documented in a certain way, we try to do that. And secondly, if basically they're dealing with a mature company, obviously there'll be a set customized kind of a protocol that you follow. But in founders and entrepreneurs, you always seek to learn so much, and then you customize it and you tailor your approach, matter, manner, method to suiting the founders, and therefore you win the confidence by giving them strategic advice.
Wow. So let's continue. What strategies do you use to manage risk in large scale transactions?
Understood. So basically, in large scale transactions, we actually, what we do is we know that this would be the position which the current or the promoters would want. So any deviation and digression therefrom would need this kind of an approval, etc. What we do is we basically, structure. So as it's also said in a medical profession that, once you diagnose the disease, 50% of your job is done. Similarly, in the legal field, what we say, Amir, is once you have structured the deal right, half of your job is done. Then the execution and implementation of the transaction will happen very seamlessly. So we try to come up with a clear structure, robust structure, resilient structure, which is in conformity with the applicable laws. Number one. Number two, we try to actually put the documents and definitive transaction agreements in a robust manner so that it stands all the challenges, and whatever issues are there, they are basically locked. So if there are any kind of visibilities or positions, they are debated at the beginning itself upfront, so that later on there is no shock or a surprise. And number three, what we try to do is we also try to involve the other advisors so that all the financial, technical, commercial, business, and legal teams are all on the same page. This is how we seek to do to set the structure right, to implement it well, and to have everybody on the same page.
Wow. So, Kiran, can you share insights into complex or memorable M&A transactions you have worked on?
Sure. So last to last year, we worked on a sale of a hospital to a listed company, and we were representing the sell side, Amir. So in that, it was a heavily negotiated kind of a structure and a document, and usually you have something called a condition precedent, which basically needs to be fulfilled between the signing and the closing of the transaction. Usually, I'm not saying it's a rule, but usually it ranges, the number of conditions precedent range between 8 to 10 conditions precedent, that you have to obtain such approval, you have to obtain such consents, etc. All the warranties have to be right, so on and so forth. In that transaction, there were 56 conditions precedent. So everything step by step had to actually be managed, settled, fulfilled, and satisfied. That was one challenge that we faced. Secondly, the structure itself was basically subject to a lot of statutory approvals by the SEBI because it involved a sale to a listed entity, as
Hmm.
also the seller was a non-resident seller, so it required some kind of approvals and coordination with the RBI as well in terms of the exchange control norms. So right from the consents, approvals, licenses, registration stage to third party, and thirdly, the challenge was the There was some kind of investigation by the enforcement directorate which was being undertaken in terms of the erstwhile promoters of that
Mm.
hospital. And in terms of ED jurisprudence, what happens is if there is a ongoing investigation, then the subject matter of that particular transaction can be seized and confiscated also. So obviously, if you're trying to sell the hospital, if the hospital itself gets confiscated, then there's nothing to sell. So it was a major challenge. We had to seek a lot of opinions from the senior counsel, from the legal fraternity, and have the seller and the buyer arrive at the same page, consensus, fulfill the conditions precedent, have the right documentation, negotiate the structure, and get it over the line.
Wow. Okay. So, Ketan, what role does intellectual property play in today's evolving corporate landscape, and how do you address it in your practice?
Understood. So, from the perspective of intellectual property, Amir, there are two things. Number one is, of course, the registration bits. If you are registering the trademark or copyright or patent or industrial design, as the case may be. The second would be the monetization angle. How do you build a brand? How do you build the goodwill which is associated with that brand or intellectual property? How do you monetize that? We actually, do a lot of second bit, the monetization bit, because we advise a lot of founders create a brand, then leverage the brand, optimize the brand, and then monetize the brand. What we and similarly, in a like vein, you would be witnessing the 6E matter, Indigo versus Mahindra. So obviously there are a lot of challenges in terms of duplicity, multiplicity, deceptive similarity of trademarks, etc. So number one, you have to be very cautious of choosing the name because there are only so many names which are available. Number two, you have to also see which is catchy, which is relatable, and which is likable. So if you're choosing a brand, it has to be relatable to the target audience. So if it's a brand, so tests are both subjective and objective. So basically, that brand has to resonate with the target audience. That's the second one. And number three, it is the onus and it's the responsibility of the promoter or the founder to actually generate that goodwill which is associated with their brand by actually delivering quality products or services as the case may be.
Wow. Oh, so continuing conversation, could you share an example of how you have contributed to developing corporate governance policies for a client?
Sure. So, while introducing me, you also mentioned that I was the in-house counsel, and that is correct. I was the in-house counsel of SREI, and
Yeah.
that was held by the Kanoria Foundation. So that was a group of 300 odd companies. So there were a lot of companies in the fold, and several companies among them were listed on recognized stock exchanges as well. So one of my KRAs was also to establish a standardization of contracts because there were so many operative and definitive contracts which were being executed on a regular basis. So what we did was, number one, we standardized the templates of each of the contracts. We identified that these are the key contracts, assuming, a lease deed or a finance document or a loan document or a security document. We standardize those positions so that, the sales and marketing team does not have to come back to the legal every time. They have a standard draft to begin with. If there is a pushback from the counterparty, then they try to solve at their end. If there is a major pushback or some kind of key non-negotiable, then it goes to the legal team or the promoters as the case may be. So one was that. The second was how we contributed to corporate governance was also to actually, because this sector was very regulated. So this company was in financial sector, and financial sector is heavily regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. So what we did was, we established clear processes, work streams, wherein, statutory and regulatory compliance at every level was taken care of. Number three, it was also an infrastructure sector. Now, infrastructure sector, they are natural monopolies. And now that there is a competition in antitrust law and the regulator is quite strict. So therefore, we set up procedures, processes, and standard operating protocols which mentioned and which basically were aligned with the competition jurisprudence in India. So the execution and the implementation of contracts was basically completely aligned with the regulators and the framework of law and regime in India. So that was one of the things which we tried to contribute to develop good corporate governance in that organization.
So, Ketan, from a legal perspective, how do you view the current trends in private equity venture capital investments in India?
Okay, from the legal perspective, I think what we are doing is we are noticing a lot of trends. So earlier, the PE and VC funds were basically sector focused. So if there is a particular sector, the thesis of investment would be to invest in that particular sector, a check of a certain size, etc. Now we are seeing a lot of sector agnostic investments as well. For example, bulge bracket funds are investing into healthcare, into real estate alike. So there is a lot of sectors which are there under the fold. Number two, we are also seeing that the in PE and VC transactions, the right of the exit rights that are secured. So usually, of course, a PE or a VC will invest to gain the IRR or ROI out of its investment. So if it's investing $100, it will seek to exit at say 200, 300, 400, $500 at an X multiple. So we are witnessing. Earlier it was a co-sale. Now we are seeing IPOs as an exit, right? Because in India there's so many IPOs, and that's become a very attractive proposition for exiting out of a particular investee target or a portfolio company. And number three, what we are seeing is that the PEVC are not really very punctilious or very fussy about their own positions. They customize. If they have a good kind of target company in which they see a lot of internal rate of return or prospect of growth, they will actually change the usual positions, digress from the usual positions, and still go and invest. So that is a very encouraging and a progressive trend that we are witnessing.
Yeah. So, Ketan, having worked across multiple law firms and corporate organizations, what is the biggest lesson you have learned about leadership?
Well, leadership, I think, I have learned only one good lesson, and that is something I try to abide by. I was told by someone who, again, I look up to, that, a leader is a someone who knows the way, who shows the way, and most importantly, goes the way. So I think, leading by example is the best way of leadership, when you can actually, with simplicity and cogence, lay out the way, show the way, and then tread the way in order for the others to follow.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ketan, I've been going through your LinkedIn profile. You have started your journey interest. How did it happen in teaching? Uh, and what are your experiences? My next question will be, you not only went to teaching to law students, but uh, recently you did a training session for your team, Burgeon. So, how teaching to students, teaching to team members, how was the experience comparison to my question is has too many insights you have to share.
Sure. So, Amir, great question. And I think, teaching is the best form of learning, is something I've always maintained. You brush up so many concepts, fundamentals, and the contextualization of matters, when you teach. Because the kind of questions that you're faced with, the kind of positive energies that come out of, I still remember, one of the initial teaching classes at the National Law University, Delhi, when one of the students asked, "What is the difference between a merger and amalgamation?" I did not have a clear, concrete answer. I had to come back, look it up, brush myself up, and then, crystallize an answer. The kind of positive energies, the kind of questions. So, number one is, it's the best form of learning. Number two is basically, when you teach, you also try to convey a certain point. And this is exactly the beauty of law is, till the time you have it in you and you're not able to convey, there's no point of being a good articulator. So I think simplicity is the best form of communicating and correspondence, and that translates into good lawyering in some form or the other. So I think, conveying your thoughts in a clear, crisp, and cogent and lucid manner is something, which is a byproduct of teaching, and something, I'm grateful for. And number three, of course, as I said, the fundamentals, the concepts, because the target audience will ask you all sorts of questions. So the kind of conceptual knowledge that you're supposed to have becomes so crystal clear that, of course, you can build on it, because law is nothing but a superstructure of common sense. But I think that common sense is based on so many judicial activism, regulatory developments, by the collective wisdom of the society and the market, etc. That is exactly what you gain by way of teaching. So I think, it's the best form of learning, as I reiterate.
So my next question, which you didn't answer it, what uh, are the plans, steps at Bergen Law for knowledge practice?
Sure. So I think at Burgeon Law, we have, placed a lot of emphasis and focus on knowledge management. What we are doing is we are not just generating knowledge management among the peers and among the lawyers that work at Burgeon. We are also doing that for founders and entrepreneurs, because our firm is well known for, PEVC practice. And that is something, we try to increase and impart know-how, technical know-how, legal know-how to a lot of founders and entrepreneurs also. So which is why my partners and I try to actually, have and organize some sessions and schedule some workshops for the brilliant minds of the country who are founders and entrepreneurs. And number three, we are as good as an execution team. So I mean, the kind of work deliverable that goes out has to be impeccable, not one word less, not one word more. So we place a lot of emphasis on knowledge management. We try to keep ourselves fully updated with the changing laws. We also try to keep ourselves fully abreast of the market development, so that we can give valuable, credible, and robust advice to our clients and the society at large.
Perfect. Yes. So, Ketan, how has technology helped you and which legal tech tool has impacted your work?
So in today's world, Amir, you cannot escape or avoid technology. Best part is, technology is such an enabler that it empowers you in any profession that you are. And in fact, we when I was at P&A Law Offices, we were the first ones, and I take pride, a lot of pride in that. That we use the Delta View, now the Workshares Compare software, to compare the Word documents, because it then used to be used and utilized well by the foreign law firms. And we were collaborated with Jones Day, and we had the software to our advantage. And of course, we're using it extensively and intensively to note the changes that were made, the amendments that were carried out with precision. There was a summary report at the end of it, so the kind of review and finalization of documents became so much more seamless. With AI coming through now, it's a different game changer altogether. We are using Mike Legal to actually summarize a lot of documents in banking and finance. So banking finance documents tend to be very voluminous and bulky. So to make an accurate summary thereof, because the provisions usually tend to replicate each other, but there are very critical provisions which have to be mapped and which have to be read through and understood very carefully. So we use Mike Legal to summarize the documents to a large extent. And the third one, I think, what we use is, Otter, which basically what it does is, if you're having a long conference call, it actually summarizes, transcribes the entire conversation, and also gives the takeaways as to whose responsibilities to do what. So if someone has volunteered to actually send the first mail out, and then prepare a role and responsibility matrix, that will showcase that X has to do this, Y has to do this, and Ketan has to do the following, etc. So I think these three softwares we are trying to use as much as possible and graduate to the new ones as well.
So, let's go to the next round and understand Ketan as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years.
Okay, so I come from a small town, Agra, and did my schooling there. I had a good academic record, but I think I placed a lot of interest in extracurricular activities and blend of sports and academics, due to which I got admitted into Sri Ram College of Commerce, and through both merit and sports quota as well, because I was a good swimmer. So that was a good achievement in my under my belt. And therefore I think coming from a small town, and then coming to Delhi was a convergence of cultures, a great learning curve. And then of course I went to the law school, and then so on and so forth.
So, Ketan, what's the one thing you look forward to the most after a long day?
I look forward to spending time with my kid. So he's only 2.5 years old. The
Ooh,
kind of unadulterated, the kind of pristine emotions and affection, that is displayed, relieves me of all the stress and tension. So that's something I look forward to.
wow, beautiful. So, who has been your biggest personal influence in life and what lessons have you learned from them?
So clearly, my father has been the most or biggest personal influence in my life, and what I've learned from him is the importance of routine and discipline, and perseverance and diligence. So I think having a clockwork precision in routine, and having a hard working attitude, because there's no substitute for hard work, and continuing to persevere, because failures are nothing but stepping stones to success. So you cannot really feel dejected after one failure or two failures or a series of failures. You have to again rise, reinvest, keep persevering, be consistent, and then stand up in life.
Wow. So, how does a weekend look for Ketan?
Weekends, as I said, I place a lot of emphasis on sports, both indoor and outdoor. So we play a
Mhm.
lot of cricket matches, because that is the only time we get to play a T20 kind of match with another firm or with another team on weekends. Otherwise, I also do a lot of indoor sports like badminton, chess, etc. So look forward to a lot of physical as well as mental exertion over the weekends.
Wow. Okay. So, what's your favorite travel destination and why?
I think nature has its own charm. It rejuvenates and recharges your energy. So, which is why I am very fond of traveling to Europe, especially Scandinavia, because the landscape, the scenes, the picturesque nature there is pristine in its all form. It imparts you refreshing energies after a lot of work. When you take a holiday, you look forward to it. Then you blend with the nature, and then you recharge yourself and come back and then start the work again.
I'm hearing this place Scandinavia through many coffee speakers. So
Oh,
there
wonderful!
must be. So I'll just form a group and you all go together.
Why not?
Okay. So Ketan, how do you maintain relationships with friends given your busy schedule?
What I have realized is, if you utilize your time efficiently, there's time for everything. So, I mean, the ROI of time should be positive and maximum. So, therefore, I maintain a calendar, and in that calendar, I try to fit in everyone. And of course, friends are, of course, you're a very integral, important, and conscious part of your life. So, giving them time is equally important, because ultimately, we are all social beings, and at my position, having a good network and connections is very important. So utilizing your time efficiently and effectively is, I think, the key.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite book or movie that resonates with your professional and personal life?
Well, I have read a lot of books, but
Hmm.
I'll talk about a movie. I think, Lakshya is a movie which I really like
Mhm.
watching. And that teaches you the quality and the importance and the imperative of perseverance. So you can change. So a lot of people say that, one cannot change its intrinsic nature. But I think, if you work hard towards it, diligently towards it, and consistently towards it, you can actually do a lot of positive changes in your life and become the man or the person or the woman of your dreams, clearly, and realize them very effectively.
Wow. So, from your bucket list, uh, what has been or we want to complete in this few days, or what have you completed from Jan 2024 to December 25, personal and professionally?
So, professionally speaking, first, I think I joined Burgeon. So I think I had a lot of aspirations, because it was a very conscious choice. It was a well deliberated choice, and as the name suggests, I want to burgeon with Burgeon. So I want to grow with Burgeon. So it gave me a lot of the best of both worlds. In fact, and both worlds being that I wanted to have the joy of building, and obviously at the same time the joy of practicing. So it has given me both the opportunities to grow an organization and continue to practice law in all its forms, to the best of my capability as well. And that is something, I obviously it's an ongoing process, continuing process, Amir. So, but it's taken off, I would say. On the personal side, of course, we have we have a small child, so we are seeing him every day. So year is too long, but every day we are seeing him grow in his formative years. So I think that's the beauty, and we're trying to spend as much time as tenaciously and cohesively as a family unit together.
Yep. So, my last question, which will be googly, describe Ketan in one line.
Well, I am a generalist, so I would say that I am a jack of many trades but master of some.
That's nice. So, let's have some fun, the rapid fire. Uh, Morning meetings or evening negotiations?
Evening negotiations.
Your go to comfort food?
Pizza.
Favorite food from Agra?
Chaat. Agra is known for its chaat, and I love it.
Favorite spot in New Delhi?
Pickleball.
Your favorite swimmer?
Of course, I think Bhanu Sachdeva, because he's my cousin and he's won an Arjuna award.
Wow. Oh, it's another interesting. Okay. Cricketer.
Sachin. I'm a classicist, so I'll go with the classic name.
Okay. Uh, One word to describe your work ethic.
Uh, Effective and efficient. Two
Wow.
words, sorry, but I think
No,
they
it's
converge
fine.
somewhere.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Let's raise.
Perfect.
Describe Burgeon Law in one line.
Your partner in growth.
Wow. Beautiful. You're a morning person or night owl?
I'm actually catering to three clocks, Singapore to US. So I get up early in the morning. I sleep very late. So, but morning, of course, is the time when my mind works most effectively. So, morning
Wow.
person.
So your favorite color?
Blue.
That's why. Sorry. So this is also in blue. You get this book. It will
Thank you so
be
much.
autographed and sent to you, your Christmas gift. So go through. So friends, it was a lovely conversation with Ketan, who has shared a lot of insights into high stakes transactions. Do watch this episode. His passion into teaching, giving back to society. He's also empowering his team members, the founders, learning sessions they keep on organizing. So all the VCs, startup founders, he's a person to connect with, and he's an athlete, and uh, his he looks forward to spending his day after he comes back with his son. So very we wish him 2025 a lot of memories with his son, with his family, and he gets to visit Scandinavia. So watch this episode. We have got over 250 plus episodes on the Coffee Corner show with different subject experts and topics. And if you want to be featured like Ketan, visit our social media handles, our website, the Emerging India Forum. Our team would invite you, and we'll have a cup of coffee and hot piping conversations, engaging, enriching conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amir. Thank you very much.